Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of Jank Brews Weekly. This is a weekly series where I make a deck for every of the formats that I personally enjoy and try to do something fun and interesting with it. And this week we're going to be talking about my favorite format, which is going to be Commander, or EDH, which stands for Elder Dragon Highlander, for those of you who don't know. And the name of the deck is going to be It's Odd, Isn't It? Now, before I continue with this, I am going to give a brief overview of what makes the Commander format special. If you're already familiar with how Commander works, I'm going to put a timestamp in the description for you to just skip ahead to the deck tech itself. But for those of you who don't know, the way that Commander works is it's an 100-card singleton format, which means you have one of each non-basic land card of the same name. You can have as many islands and swamps as you want, but you can only have one watery grave, for example. Now, besides that, your deck is going to have one legendary creature as the commander, and that's going to determine the color identity of the deck. You can't have cards with colors different than the color identity of your commander, and once I start going into the deck, I'll go over a little bit more what the color identity is, because it's easier to understand with the creature in front of you. But basically, your commander dictates what direction your deck is going to be going. It's a creature that you can reliably cast because you will always have it in your command zone. Anytime your commander would change zones, whether it's going into your library or your graveyard or exile even, you can redirect it to go into your command zone, where you can cast it at any time you could normally cast it, except for every time you're recasting it, it costs an additional 2 colorless mana. Now, besides that, the rest of the format is pretty straightforward. You have essentially the entirety of Magic available to you. Every card ever printed is available in Commander with a very small ban list, which, if you're playing casually, you're generally not going to be playing cards that are on there to begin with. But just know that there is a ban list for a Commander, but generally you're going to have access to every card in the history of Magic. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to the deck. The deck it's odd, isn't it? Because every single non-land card in the deck is odd costed. And this is because of our commander, Yannette Cryptic Sovereign. Now, Yannette costs 2 white, blue, black. Because it has the white, blue, and black mana symbols, that means that its color identity is white, blue, and black. If it had any other mana symbols in its text box, or those mana symbols were different, that would change the color identity of the deck. Now, this is a really cool card. It came out in the recent Commander 2018 set, and it has a bunch of stuff going on. So, Flying Vigilance Menace is already pretty decent for 5 mana. It's a 3/5, so it's not going to be inconsequential. Oh, one thing I did forget to state is in Commander, you can win with commander damage by dealing 21 damage to a person with your commander. This is a strategy that sometimes can be used. It's called Voltron, where you can have your commander be basically the sole win condition, and you just stack equipment on it and you just kill people with it. Now, with Yannette, that's not what we're going to be doing. Yannette has another line of text which is really cool. Whenever it attacks, it doesn't even have to deal combat damage. It's just whenever you declare it as an attacker, you can reveal the top card of your library. If its converted mana cost is odd and it's a non-land card, you can cast it for free. Otherwise, you draw a card. So either way, you're going to be getting a card out of the deal, but we're going to try to take advantage of the fact that it can help us cast odd-costed cards for free, and so every single non-land card in the deck is odd-costed. Now, in order to take full advantage of Yannette, you're going to have to be having ways to affect the top of our library. For that, we have 10 cards, essentially, just cantrips. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is for the Commander deck text, I will be doing a more generic. I won't be going over each specific card in the deck, because there's 100 cards. It's generally going to be taking way too long. So instead, I will be going over the sub-themes in the deck, the different things that you're trying to do. And if you guys in the future would like me to go into a little more specifics, I can, but for now, I'm just going to be giving generic overviews of why I included certain cards in the deck and what the theme of this section is. So for this one, the theme of these cards is affect the top of your library. You have Scry, you have look at the top 3 and rearrange them. You can get cards specifically and put them on top of your library. And these cards allow us to be able to make sure that whenever we're attacking with Yannette, we're going to be able to get something out of it, some value, which that is the entire purpose of the deck, right? You're trying to take advantage of casting stuff for free. Mystical's Tutor and Long-Term Plans are probably the best ones, but all of these cards are going to be very effective in getting you the cards that you want to be on top of your library. Mortuary Mire is also fantastic because it can get us a card from our graveyard. In case we get milled or a creature dies and we want it back, we can get it back with Yannette by putting it on top of our library. Now, with a top of the library strategy, sometimes you can scry, you can put things back with Brainstorm, and you realize you don't want those cards on top of your library anymore. Or you just want to change things up. You're going to need to have a lot of ways to shuffle your library. And for that, that's going to be primarily in our mana base. Lots of fetch lands. I don't have any of the more expensive fetch lands on here, the ones that are above $40, because in general, Jank, you want to be also on a budget, sort of. It's not exactly necessary, and this can be upgraded for sure, but besides that, just a lot of cards to make you shuffle your library in order to change what's on top, and it also helps you get lands out of your deck so that you can have fewer chances of flipping one with Yannette. Now that we have the ways that we're going to be affecting the top of our library, let's go over the things that we want to actually be getting on top. You know, the different plans that the deck has for potentially winning. So the first one is going to be the suite of Planeswalkers. We have a total of 7 Planeswalkers and Oath of Teferi. All of these, as you can see again, are odd costed, and each of these Planeswalkers individually can do a lot for you. These guys are going to be able to get you card advantage, and Minatu specifically helps a lot with everything else that the deck is trying to do. You can put cards back on top, you can blink your other Planeswalkers to get multiple triggers. I had, in one game, I activated Jace, Unraveler of Secrets a total of 8 times in one turn, which is just insane. It's awesome. Getting any of these for free onto the battlefield is going to be really good for you, and just Planeswalkers in general are very powerful cards, so these would probably have been included even if it wasn't going to be a sub-theme of the deck, but after seeing how many were included, I decided let's include Oath of Teferi, make these even more relevant, and Oath of Teferi's blink effect is actually really powerful sometimes. Now, besides that, there's another sub-theme to the deck, and that's going to be the graveyard theme. You have some reanimation, some cards that are going to help you ensure that if something you wanted ends up in your graveyard, you can get it back. Rise of the Dark Realms is a bit of a cheap card. It's definitely a card that's seen in Commander as almost auto-include in any graveyard strategy. Same with Shieldred. And so they might not be entirely within the window of Jank. However, you can't have everything in the deck not be the best, right? Because if you don't have some good cards in your deck, it's never going to be able to survive it, because you will always run into people who are going to be doing their strategies in the best way possible. That's why I include cards that are going to be powerful. They are definitely cards that could be run in a better deck. However, for example, Rise of the Dark Realms in the deck is actually not that good, because if you flip it early with Yannette, you're not going to want to be casting it, and then it's going to be stuck in your hand for costing 9 mana, where you can't exactly cast it for free. Now, again, you have ways to get it back on top of your library and other things like that, but generally, all of these cards are not going to be as game-changing as they would be in a more powerful deck. Besides that, the sub-theme of Graveyard, the sub-theme of Planeswalkers, then there's just general value. These are cards that are going to be going really well with the theme of Oddcaster. They're also going to be going really well with Yannette herself. Curator's Ward and Whisper Silk are there as protection. You can't be running Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves. This is an odd-costed deck. Come on. Anyway, so you need to be able to ensure that Yannette has some survivability, and so these two provide Hexproof, Shroud. They provide protection for her, basically. Besides that, Approach of the Second Sun is also a little bit cheap, but it can be countered, it can be worked around. It's not exactly the best win condition. Emrakul and Void Winnower, I couldn't resist. They're just... Void Winnower needs to go in any Yannette deck. It's just perfect for the flavor, it's perfect for the theme of the deck. It is a little bit too powerful for my liking. I don't like cards that my opponents see them and they just groan. It's just... It feels bad to play against, but for flavor reasons, I've opted to include it in the deck just because it fits so well. Besides that, the rest of these cards are just for fun, basically. Clone Legion, Mind Silation, those are cards that you will never see anywhere outside of Commander, but when you get them going, they can be a lot of fun, and you can get a lot of silly things going, especially with Mind's Dilation. But besides that, this is still an Esper deck. We do need some control. We need to be able to stay alive, so we have a bunch of removal. Path and Swords are just... They're basically auto-includes in any white commander deck because you will be running into people that are trying to do, as I said earlier, the Voltron strategies, or you just... There's a lot of powerful cards in the format that you need to have some interaction, or else you're never going to get to do your fun things. Toxic Deluge, again, a fantastic card. And then, besides that, we want to ensure that Yannette can stay alive when we wipe the board, so we have a ton of super expensive, odd-costed board wipes, which fit really well with the theme of the deck. They fit really well with ensuring that we are ahead and keeping everyone in control so we can have our fun. Again, the deck is not trying to make it so that nobody else can play, but at the same time we want to make sure that the game doesn't end too quickly. And lastly, there is an infinite combo in the deck, but this is truly the part where I would consider this deck to be really janky, besides the 100% odd costed. And that is the infinite combo involving several pieces. This is going to be Eternal Scourge, Paradox Engine, Ashnod's Altar, the Scarab God, and a bunch of mana rocks. Now, in case you can't see how the combo works, you have an Eternal Scourge. You need to have all of these pieces out. Well, you only need about 2 or 3 of the mana rocks, but all of the top 4 pieces and some mana rocks need to be out. And then you can sacrifice Eternal Scourge to Ashnod's Altar, you get 2 mana, and then you can make a 4/4 token with the Scarab God, exiling Eternal Scourge, which you can then recast from exile, which triggers Paradox Engine, untapping all of your mana rocks, and you continue, essentially getting infinite 4/4 Eternal Scourge tokens. This combo isn't going to immediately win you the game, the tokens don't have haste, but theoretically you can activate this on your upkeep and drain your opponents for infinite zombies using the Scarab God's trigger. But again, this is an incredibly difficult combo to pull off, and I've only managed to do it once across dozens of games. I personally always try to include this in a deck, if I can, which is in any deck that is running blue-black, just because I always want to hopefully put it all together. Individually, all of the cards are still really powerful, and most decks need mana rocks to begin with, just in order to be more consistent and stay afloat. So I think this combo is a lot of fun. I think this is a very janky commander thing that you wouldn't be able to pull off in any of the other formats, and that's honestly why I love Commander. Commander is a format that allows you to put together a bunch of cards, have a deck whose average converted mana cost is 5, and still be able to have fun and be able to do all of your goofy things. No game in Commander, I personally believe, should end before turn 6 at the earliest. If anybody's deck is tuned to be faster than that, then it ruins the game for everybody else who is generally there just to have fun. Commander's not a competitive format in any way when it's multiplayer. I will acknowledge that there is a lot of fun to be had in competitive Commander, because again, you need to be able to deck build in a way that it's consistent and all that, but I will tend to stray away from that. And if anybody's playing a multiplayer Commander game and they're just there to win on turn 3, then that just seems like, what's the point? But anyway, that's the deck. The Deck techs for Commander are going to be a little different in the future. I am going to be taking feedback on this and reviewing it myself. But in the meanwhile, there you have it, and we'll be back next time with Standard, now in Guilds of Ravnica.